Just picking up on what Tom Harwood was saying there, do you think the government has been conservative enough over the last 2 to 3 years?
I think in some respects, I think it has. In other respects, I think it could maybe go further. I think, tax cuts is one area where it could go further. Mind you, I was very happy with the Rwanda partnership, and that was announced a few months ago. I think more action on immigration is going to be important to demonstrate conservative credentials, as is a tax-cutting agenda. And I'm pleased to have heard that that's something we might be moving closer to over the last few days.
But in saying that, isn't that the problem, though, Tom? We've had the cost of living crisis now for 9 months or so. The government's initial offering clearly wasn't good enough. It got dragged back again with somewhat of an emergency budget. Many MPs think that's not good enough either. They want more. And isn't that the problem, though, that the government seem to be reacting to events? They don't seem to have a vision of how to really properly deal with this.
Well, I don't think reacting to events is necessarily something I'd see as a bad thing. I think the events we're talking about are incredibly challenging and fluid. And that is, very significant global inflation rates, very challenging economic outlook across the world. We have the challenge, of course, of wanting to do what we can to shield some of those on the lowest income from spiralling costs. But as we've seen today from the OECD report, there's also a significant challenge when it comes to promoting economic growth. When we think about the interventions we might want to make, we also don't want to make the situation of inflation any worse. So it's an incredibly challenging situation. Inevitably, the government will have to be nimble, quick on its feet, and respond to events. I don't see that as a negative, but as a strength.
But isn't there a problem here with economic growth in the sense that, Britain's economic growth, its productivity's not been great for the past decade. Britain was, I think, the slowest country to recover, or major economy to recover from the pandemic, to get back to the same level of economic growth that it was beforehand. And now we hear from the OECD saying that we could be just above Russia next year. Why can't the conservative government, it's not just this one, but the ones over the last decade or so, why have they not been able to grow Britain's economy?
Well, I think at various points throughout the pandemic, our economy has been growing strongly and favourably compared with other countries. I think that one of the things that report that highlighted was that we are exposed to what's going on in the Ukraine, and that is having a very negative impact on our economy at the moment. But when we look over the last year or two, there's been numerous forecasts that have been published about economic growth. Sometimes we've been doing well compared to other countries. This particular one, we're doing bad compared to other countries. I'd also say that economic forecasts quite often have a habit of being wrong. So what we do know, though, forecast aside, is that the picture is very challenging. It is very challenging. But I do believe that the Conservative government we have at the moment is by far our best bet of getting through that difficult time. And the Chancellor wrote a piece today, I read in the Telegraph, which I thought was encouraging. But it is a very challenging outlook. And as always, my principal concern are my constituents, many of whom are struggling with cost of living at the moment.